Well, hi there. I'm Sylvia Four. We're on the porch, and this is,
Linda Hollington.
and we're back again. And we're going to discuss today about wind mitigation and, building code inspections. And when you're buying a house, you have to get different parts taken care of with the inspector, and one of them is your building codes. And they have to go in and just confirm and assess and make sure that when this home was built, when it was built, but also under what code it was built and that it was built properly. So they go through and verify a number of things. And
if you've done any additions or anything like that you needed a code for,
or permit,
they're going to ask you for it. And they're going to also ask you if they're closed out.
Because you don't want a mechanical lien on
right
when you get to closing, and oopsie doodle, we found
right. They're going to ask you about that too,
and that has happened a number of times. So you have to. They're also looking at the roof and the attachments, because if you put on an addition and the roof, there's a lot of funky things that happen with that. Putting it on and the roof that was there, the structure that was there, and when you put on an addition, and things don't always get done properly, the right ratio and level and things like that. So they're very, very careful, and they go through all the records and make sure that what they can find, so that you, the buyer who is paying for this inspection, you are armed and understand what.
And you may have only lived there a few years. And hopefully, when you bought the house, this was all done and taken care of. But maybe you don't know anything about this at all, so it has to be searched, and checked into. And roof deck attachments too can be an issue. People put on a deck in the back, and then maybe add a pool, and then they want to add something over that. So that can be an issue too. For permits and inspections and those kind of things.
And they'll make sure that on your actual roof, they call it a secondary water resistance, and so that before they put on the shingles, that it was properly, they have the kind of it's not a membrane, because there are membrane roofs, but it's some sort of material that will help prevent water getting in and leaking. If it were to get in under the shingles. So that's another part of this building inspection that they will do.
And I'm not sure how much they're doing this anymore, but there was a time when they would just do a re-roof, and it meant they didn't tear off. They just went on another layer.
Yeah.
I don't see that being done so much anymore, but it is something that they used to do.
Weren't they only allowed 3 at maximum because of the weight and everything else? So, and then if you had 3 layers on your roof, you had to get everything taken off. What a bear of a job that would be.
And I think it's they're thinking, well, they'll just re-roof, it just makes it better.
Yeah.
And it takes care of the leaks, but I don't see that happening too much anymore.
They're all coming off, and new, brand spanking new coming on. So, and then of course, your openings, your windows and your doors.
Right.
So some of what do they have? They have impact windows, or?
And those impact windows that they have in Florida now are amazing.
Yeah.
They are absolutely amazing how they, my son has the latest version of them in his house. And we stayed there, it's like a bunker. You can look outside and see that hurricane. You can't hear a thing.
Nice. Isn't that amazing?
Cannot hear a thing. And you watch the news and you look outside and you think, this is really something.
Because one thing, when we shutter up, we can't see, and we can hear, but we can't see what's going on out there. So when you have impact windows, not only can you see, I guess you're not hearing it.
You don't hear anything either.
That's amazing.
They're good for 175 miles an hour.
Well, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're going to have to be, careful about that.
Right.
What type of storm it is.
So what category storm would you evacuate? Would you just say, I know I'm, hopefully my house will be safe, but I'm going to go?
Probably a 5.
A 5. And do you remember what the mile per hour wind is for that? I don't.
It's 195.
195. Okay. So, and these impact windows are good for 175. Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and
They're very expensive, but
if you're in the right area, the hurricane is not going to be the same thing that it was in our case. When it hits the beach,
Yeah.
by the time it gets inland, it's not 195
Right.
anymore. It's
Right.
slowed down by then.
Yeah.
Even a few
they
miles.
kind of scare everybody by saying, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
going to be." By the
But
time
even
it
a
works
few
its way.
miles makes a difference. But you need to have that. Let's see, what else did we
Did
not
we
talk
miss
about?
something?
Roof to wall attachments. They look at the attachment between the rafters and the trusses to the exterior walls,
Mm-hmm.
because apparently they used to just set a roof on and didn't attach it.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them could, of the older ones, could not be attached, maybe,
Yeah.
to the house.
It was maybe a reason.
Well, it was a big deal at one time. I remember it, about attached roofs. So that's another thing they look for. And you talked about the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
Types of open protection. We talked about the shutters and impact windows and everything. So
Yeah, a lot of people have shutters or something to cover. There's all kinds of different shutters, but
and the name of this report, I think Sylvia said, is wind mitigation. When they're looking at this, they're thinking wind destruction.
Mhm.
Wind and water, probably.
because the wind has got to open that place into your house, whether it's getting the roof,
Right.
ripping the roof off, or sending something that crashes through your window, and then the water will follow.
Because if you're in a bad storm and the wind gets in any of these areas,
Mm-hmm.
it's
And then it's going to do more damage because
it's-
more wind.
you're going to have a lot of damage.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of damage. So we need to take care of those, and we are selling your house. Might be a good idea to have these looked at ahead of time so you can present a
So
report.
you're not blindsided. I
Yes.
like to, if people can afford it, and it's not that expensive to get a pre-listing inspection. And that way they're not blindsided. It's not as costly as when a buyer is getting an inspection, but the pre-listing inspection gives you a good basic idea of what you're looking at and what could be.
Right. Because it's going to happen. When you
Come
get
on.
that contract, you're going to get an inspection.
Sure. And they're going to go through with a fine-tooth comb.
So if you have any other questions, contact anybody at Caldwell Banker or
Mhm.
us, or leave us a note here. We'd be glad to get back with you. And again, I'm Linda Hollington with Caldwell Banker.
I'm Sylvia Ford, Global
And we'll
Banker.
see you again soon.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you for joining us.